Good morning everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. Today's video is another one in the scope of the food prep after the 6-week grocery haul. Someone in the comments has said that maybe I shouldn't do the little spiel that I do at the beginning of each of these videos, so let me know how you feel about the little spiel that I do for people who may come in as this is their first video. I normally discuss the fact that I do a 6-week groceries haul. Most people ask how I make it last and things like that, and it was suggested that I make a video that's separate that discusses this, which I suppose I kind of already have, and direct them to that video rather than repeat it every day on the videos. Let me know what you think in the comments. I tend to do it just as a par for course because I'm normally talking to you anyway, so I'm normally talking to the regulars about stuff that's in the video, but also just reiterating what I'm doing. It just becomes a bit of a habit. It's a bit like the intro to the video that I now say because that sort of sets me up to start talking. It just is my prompt to start filming, I suppose. It's strange because yes, if you're watching videos regularly from me, then you know who I am, you know who we are and all the rest of it, but I think the point is that I gain new audience every single day, and they don't necessarily know, and it's trying to capture them to want to stick around, I suppose. I don't really know how it all works. As I have said many times, this is not what I expected when I started YouTube, and I am still flying by the seat of my pants. So let me know in the comments what you think about whether I should give at the beginning of the 7 to 10 days of daily food prep, if I should give the little spiel about why I'm doing the videos, or if I should try and redirect it to somewhere else, and how you feel about it. That would be great. But for the moment, I have no idea what day we're on. I missed putting a video out yesterday just because I didn't get a voiceover done, and I just couldn't be bothered, basically. Needed a day off. So today, I don't know what day we're up to, and I don't know what day it was. But it is Friday today for me, so it was earlier in the week, and we have the hamper coming tomorrow, so I wanted to get these last couple of videos out of the food prep for you as well, the hamper and all that sort of out of the way, and then I can start on some new projects next week, hopefully. Things like I still need to do soap, and I still haven't done the garlic conserver yet, and I need to do pasta sauce because we had bolognese for dinner last night and used a jar of the tomato soup as the extra liquid because I haven't made pasta sauce yet, so things like that. So there's stuff on the cards that needs doing once I get all this daily food prep done. There is still a pork in the fridge though, I think, so I need to mince that up probably today. So, still getting along. So this is day whatever of daily food prep post a 6-week grocery haul. And we're still just working our way through all the produce and all the meat and stuff that we got, and down a fridge, down an inverter. So fun. So come along, see what I got done today, and I'll talk to you later. So last month I made up some sushi bowls for lunch one day. Just did sushi rice and teriyaki chicken and all the veggies and stuff all just in a bowl with the rice and soy sauce drizzled sort of thing. And everyone really enjoyed it. But there was requests when I did that to make actual sushi. And I understand that we haven't had real sushi in a long time. We don't go anywhere. So, it's one of those things that we used to get when the kids were little and we lived metro. We'd go to Springfield Lakes shopping centre. That was 20 minutes away from us, and they had outdoor playgrounds and stuff like that, and we'd sit down and have some sushi and have that sort of thing. Then we moved out here and we don't go out anymore, so now I make most of those sorts of things for everyone to eat, and the kids get treats when they go into town with Darryl or to Toowoomba with Darryl, so they still get treats, but it's not the same way. There's no sushi in MILLMERRAN. Oh, not that I'm aware of. There's not much of anything, and we're a lot more frugal now, so we're much more likely to get something from the RGA than to, get a meal as such. So I bought the stuff this month to make them actual sushi rolls. I just bought a sushi mat and the nori and that sort of thing, and I bought some imitation crab mix as well. So I used the Thermomix to make the sushi rice. It has a simple method built in, but it only does 500 grams at a time, and I quickly realised that 500 grams is nowhere near enough to make a significant size meal for my size family. So I did the 500 grams, but for this one, and I've realised that I'd need to at least double that to make enough to satisfy everyone getting enough pieces. I might have to try using the stovetop next time, or now that I've got the secondary solar set up, not that it's working currently, but now that I've got it set up, I could probably run a rice cooker on it if I wanted. So I might have a look at what wattage rice cookers run at and things like that. Might be worthwhile for things like this. So while the rice was cooking, I mixed up a filling. So I went super simple today. I cut up a bag of the imitation crab into flakes, and I scooped out a bunch of the avocados that I'm still working on. Put some mayo with it, then tasted it, added some bits and pieces, a bit of soy sauce, things like that. It's fairly bland once added to the rice, but, you know, we're going to dip it in soy sauce, so it wasn't such a big deal. But it definitely wasn't the most tasty filling. Originally, I was going to do like a teriyaki chicken or something like that. I could have used the marinated chicken thighs that were in the fridge, but I decided not to because I could use the imitation crab, and I didn't want to double up on using ingredients that could be used for other meals, sort of thing. So I cut up some coleslaw really fine as well. Sorry, not coleslaw really fine. Celery really fine as well to give some crunch. Normally I'd have like sticks of cucumber and sticks of carrot and things like that, but I don't have any of that at the moment because the fridge died, so we haven't got much in the way of that kind of fresh produce currently. So I had some celery in the fridge. I cut that up nice and small, and it added the crunch to the surimi, to the imitation crab, which was nice. And then plenty of mayo and flavors as well. Next time, I did think maybe some of that marinated garlic would be nice as a hit, and maybe some pickled ginger. I might need to try making that when I harvest my ginger, or when I get ginger in bulk next. Of course, you know, like the teriyaki chicken or something like that would also add heaps of flavour because you'd have the teriyaki sauce on the chicken. But as I said, I just didn't want to use chicken when I had the imitation crab to use, so they ended up fairly bland. California rolls, basically. Avocado instead of cucumber, it was celery, and the surimi with a bit of mayo. But everyone wolfed it. Like, it's not like it wasn't tasty, it just wasn't overly tasty. But we dipped it all in soy sauce anyway, so, you know, doesn't matter. So once the rice was cooked, I put it in that nice big flat plastic container and added the rice vinegar and the sugar mix to it and let it soak in. So it's been a long time since I've rolled sushi, but I think even my first one turned out not too bad. I was just sort of getting an assessment of how much rice versus filling and all that sort of thing to go on the seaweed. I think I could reduce the rice and bump the filling, because we had plenty of filling left but not so much rice and things like that. So it's all going to be a bit of a learning curve, that one. It has been years and years since I've made sushi. So, but the kids enjoyed it. Apollo, after I ran out of rice, Sonnet and Apollo wanted to roll some up just with the filling because there was plenty of filling left. So I only filmed him doing the first one, but I gave him some tips about, because initially he rolled the mat into the seaweed and things like that. So I showed him how to do that and how to wet the edges and stuff like that. And the next lot that they did had a lot more filling in them than these ones did, but they used the rest of the filling. So, you know, they must have enjoyed doing that anyway. And I had talked to people because I posted a photo of this on Facebook, and people had said I should get one of the sushi bazooka type things, and that Kmart sells them fairly inexpensively. I looked them up, they're $10, so it's not too bad. But honestly, I think a couple of these, you know, 50-cent mats, and they would manage quite fine. So maybe I just need to do that and put them out on the table. The small boys probably would struggle, but I think Sonnet, Apollo and Surreal would be perfectly capable of doing them with just the mats themselves. So that might be the way to go too, because it's something they can make themselves, and it's probably something I could even have in the fridge and they could make for lunch. Like if there was leftover rice and fillings and stuff, they could make for themselves at some point. So the bazooka is probably just, you know, more washing up, to be honest, and more plastic to try and store here, which plastic just doesn't store well. It gets so dirty and filthy, and yeah, so we'll see how we go. But for the moment, I think they're pretty happy with the mats, and I'll just have to experiment with making larger quantities of rice and things like that. So it went down well anyway. After lunch, I processed one of the pork roasts. So I cut a section off to use as a smoked pork roast. I didn't end up doing it for dinner tonight. I did it tomorrow, but I took the rind off the whole lot and took like a third of the pork and put it in the fridge to use as a smoked pork roast. I took the rind off because we generally cook this over potatoes. I didn't do it today because we had other plans, but I just cut the rind up and stuck it in the freezer, and then we can do it over potatoes at a later date if we want, or it can be parts of it can be given to the dogs, or, you know, they like it cooked as well if you cook it up and they like the crunchy snack. So we'll do something with it anyway. For the moment, I just tossed it in the freezer. So I put the roast in the fridge with the rind and stuff so that I could sort that out tomorrow, and then chunk the rest of the pork up for canning. So I had those few vegetable soup jars left, so I needed something else to go in the canner, so which was why we were doing this. So I like to raw pack pork into jars. I like these 31s. They're 850ml, I think, and they're a nice wide jar. And you want to chunk the pork up into significant sized chunks, because when it cooks it all falls apart. This ends up being pulled pork basically. You can put barbecue sauces and stuff in there, but I find that because it takes 90 minutes to cook, sometimes those sauces burn a little bit and they're just not as pleasant as you would expect them to be. So generally speaking, I just do straight pork and then we can add something to it later. So I do the pork in great big chunks because you want, when it falls apart, you want those threads to be as long as possible, but you also want to fit as much in the jar as possible. So significant size chunks, some smaller ones to fit into the little holes. Now I raw pack my pork. All I do is I put a sprinkle of salt and the pork in there, and that's it. When it's cooking, it creates its own juices. The juices don't always cover all of the meat, but it gets a bit of a fat cap on the top as well. But it doesn't have to, so long as it's processed correctly. Even if it's exposed above the liquid, it's perfectly fine. That's just the way it works. So I like to do it just raw pack. You can put liquid over them, you can put stock over it, you can put water over it, whatever you want. Personally, we like it just as is. It creates half a jar of liquid itself, water, meat juices, whatever is you want to call it, and that's enough. And we even drain that off, generally speaking, and fry up the pork in a pan, a bit like we do corned beef the same. You have corned beef hash done raw into a jar and then poured into a pan to crisp up. So just a little bit of salt, the raw pack pork. I do the standard process, clean the rims with white vinegar, rubber rings with white vinegar, lids with white vinegar, clip them on. So I'm going to stick them in the canner with the vegetable soup. Now the vegetable soup is cold now because it got stuck in the fridge overnight because I didn't have time to can it yesterday. So that's fine. It means that the pork jars are cold, the vegetable soup jars are cold, so the water going in the canner is cold as well. And then it'll come up slowly, and I'll bring the heat up slowly. I won't turn it full bang straight away. I'll bring it up a bit slower so that we don't have any siphoning issues of those jars or thermal shock for those jars. Now no meat products in their soup. This is purely vegetable soup. There's varying times for vegetable soup depending on what's in your soup. The rule of thumb is that you want to can it for the item in the jar that takes the longest to can. So for me, this would be the onion, probably, which is a 40-minute canning time in a pint, probably I don't know, a 55 in a quart. I'm not real sure, but it's 40 minutes in a pint, and that's probably the longest canning time. I don't know, carrots have a fairly decent canning time. Regardless, it's not as long as a meat product. So canning the soup for 90 minutes is going to be plenty, and then that's what the pork requires as well. So the pork is classed as a quart size, so it requires 90 minutes processing. The vegetable soup is slightly larger than a quart, so it needs a little bit longer than a standard vegetable soup. And from everything, I think 75 is probably the max I've ever seen vegetable soup needing, so 90 minutes is fine for that as well. So I did 90 minutes for the whole lot, and that will be plenty of time to process both the vegetable soup and the pork. And it means I've got a full 7-jar canner load worth, which is what I was aiming for. I hate running canners half empty. It just takes too much gas and time and supervision, and I would much prefer to have it full if I'm going to run it. I then continued working on lemons. I still actually have probably another session of juicing to go, 1 or 2. I still got a tray full of lemons to go. They're lasting really well, and there was just so many lemons in that box. They're small, seedless lemons. As I said, it's a bit strange. I'm not real sure what variety they are, but they're lovely, and I have more to go because the box just was chock-a-block full of these smaller seedless lemons. So we're still working on lemons. So I did the same as before. I used a potato peeler to get some of the rind off without getting the pith, and then I just freeze that, and later on I can grind it up into like actual zest, or I can use it as strips, or I can do whatever I want to do it. I use some of the big pieces in my cordials. They go in the cordial when the cordial's steeping and things like that. I would like to dehydrate some. I did think about putting some on a tray on the dashboard of the car, because that would probably work. So maybe the next lot I'll try and remember to do that, because I can't use my dehydrator at the moment without that second inverter. So we did all that, and we juice the lemons. Now, Angie lent me this commercial juicer, which has a lot more power than anything I've been using, but it's also made more for oranges. So we had a few hits and misses with the lemons being a little bit too small for the reamer, and then then they'd flip off and they'd get caught in the side and you'd have to pull them out. So it got more juice out of them than doing it by hand, and it was a lot easier in my hands. Gripping those lemons on the Kmart juicer is pretty horrid, but it didn't like the size of the lemons too much, so it was a bit hit and miss when we were doing it, but it definitely gets more juice per lemon out. So we juiced them all and got that lot done. I think I froze some of the lemon juice in ice cube trays. I don't think I made any more lemon curd today, but I did whatever I needed to do with the lemon, and we've still got heaps of lemon to work with, so we're getting there. I need to make some lemon cordial again too. We only have a couple of jars of the pineapple cordial left, so we need a replacement for the shelf for that. I made another version of that lemon coconut cake that I was trying. I altered the proportions slightly, but it was still a little bit more crumbly than I'd like. The flavour was good. So when I do the next lot of lemons, I'll do another iteration of alterations and we'll see how we go. I'm really going for that light, fluffy, spongy type texture, but without the crumble, but with a bright lemon flavour as well, and it's got flecks of coconut in it, like it's got actual shredded coconut in it as well, so we're really enjoying it, and it's kind of fun to test out the recipes, and they've all been edible. That first one sort of wasn't edible, but that was user error, not recipe issues, so it's fine. Everyone's enjoying eating them, even if they aren't quite right, so I'll give it at least another go in the next lot of lemons. For dinner that night, we wanted to try the plum sauce. So I canned up Chinese plum sauce with the plums that I got in the grocery haul, and I canned up quite a few jars of it because I like the idea of it. But when I was tasting it, it was quite strong. Not a dip-in sauce, like definitely like not a plum sauce you could dip things into. It's definitely more of a marinade or something. So we wanted to try it. So what I did was I cooked some chicken up, and I did it the same way. On Facebook, I shared a photo of lemon chicken that I made that everyone was interested in seeing the process for, and I basically did the same, but we're going to use plum with it. So I cut my thighs into little cubes. I seasoned those cubes with salt and pepper. I seasoned those cubes with soy sauce, ginger, and garlic. And then I got potato starch out. You could use cornstarch or something probably, but I used potato starch, and I seasoned it with salt and pepper. And then I coated the chicken cubes in the potato starch and fried them off in some oil. Now, I don't deep fry very much, but it is nice every now and again. And I purposely bought that cold pressed vegetable oil last month, I think it was, from Costco to give a go. I actually bought it or it might have been the month before. I actually bought it to try for the mayo because I couldn't get any olive oil and we really didn't like it as mayo. But it's a good one for frying, really high smoke point, cold pressed, all the rest of it. So I used that for the frying. So the potato starch chicken goes into the into the oil. You don't want to overcrowd your pan, and this pan badly needs a steel wool. That keeps on burning up that one patch of the side when I use oil on it, so I'm gonna have to get some steel wool. I need to put that on my list. And fried off the chicken in batches. You don't want to overcrowd the pan or your chicken won't be crispy. So and you want to make sure your oil's hot enough before you stick that first bit in. If your oil is too cold, then your chicken will be greasy. If your oil's nice and hot, it'll be nice and crispy. So I cooked it all off in batches and put it on a rack for us to eat. And then I cooked some rice up in chicken stock that the kids really enjoy, and I just steamed some frozen vegetables and we served it over the top of that. I warmed up the plum sauce and then drizzled it over. The plum sauce definitely was a little overpowering. I think what would be better would be to make it more of like one of those, like you dilute it with a bit of stock and some cornstarch or potato starch or whatever, and make it sort of that, and then toss your chicken in it, that sort of a Chinese shop style plum chicken, I suppose, which is what I'm going for, but I wanted to try it like this first because that would be nice and simple if you could just drizzle it, but it was a bit overpowering. a little too strong, a little too much. The lemon was much preferred than the plum, which is fine. We have lemon chong there to use whenever we want to use it. So we will do that again too, probably, now that I've got some oil there. And I'm going to strain my oil well and use it a couple of times. That's a personal preference, but from everything I can read about it, as long as you pull all the solids out of it and the oil isn't discolored and you're not using it excessively, then it's fine. So we're going to give that a go anyway, see how it goes. But I definitely think I'd do more of a sticky, diluted type sauce next time, and maybe toss the chicken in it. The chicken's not going to be as crispy if you toss it in there, but that's sort of how it comes from a Chinese store too. So maybe that's what was missing, that the batter needed to soak up some of that plum sauce that's diluted to make the flavour a little more tolerable. I don't know. We're gonna play with it. We cut up the cake for dessert. It's definitely still a bit crumbly. It's a bit better now that it's cold, but still a bit more crumbly than I'd like. So it's not quite there, but I'm happy to keep trying because, you know, then we get to eat it. I also mixed up another batch of sourdough hot cross buns. I added some cacao powder to these ones as well. I really wish I had some chocolate chips at the moment, but I don't because the kids ate them out of the freezer, which is, you know, that's children for you. Went to use them and the bag was empty because they've just been nicking them out of the freezer and eating them. So it was just with some cacao, and the temperatures are a little bit odd at the moment, so whether we can get it to proof properly, I don't know, but I mixed up another batch to give a go. So that was everything for today. We got a whole bunch done. Still more to go. There's always more to go, and I know I've got at least one more pork roast. I've got more lemons. There's still a bit of chicken there left to do, so we will continue on the next couple of days. I think there's at least 2 or 3 days left to go, so this must be around about day 6 or 7. I'm really not sure, and because, as I said, it normally takes 7 to 10 days for me to get everything processed and on the shelves and sorted and ready to go for then just cooking from it until I have to start planning the next trip. But we do have the hamper coming on tomorrow, Saturday, so I will film that for you as well. And it'd be interesting to see what we get this month. It's Good Friday today, which means it's public holiday, so I'm not real sure what the hamper's going to look like tomorrow because the place will have been closed today. And I assume there'll probably be some Easter treats in there too. I'm not real sure, but we'll see what comes tomorrow, and I will bring you all along when I figure out when I see what I get, and we can enjoy figuring it out together. Alrighty guys, thanks for joining me again today. Bye.